Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing well as usual. So I'm back today with another video, and this time I'm doing a collection update, which is kind of long awaited really, because I haven't done one of these in a while. But having said that, a lot of threads and contests have been coming up, and in addition to that, I don't buy all that much new music these days, at least compared to a lot of people on YouTube, but of course I do occasionally. So there are 4 albums for me to talk about today. 2 of which I bought from my local contact. There was a sale running, and 2 more which I bought from a record shop in the capital city, just albums that I liked. So it's a very eclectic mix of genres today. So there's some extreme metal and also some more mainstream stuff. No black metal, but I think based on when people watch this channel, they prefer the more extreme stuff. So I have 2 albums consisting of that. And yeah, hopefully there's something for everyone. So without further ado, we will just get straight into it. So the first album I picked up, this is DEVOURMENT with Butcher the Week. So most of you are probably familiar with DEVOURMENT. I've heard a lot of people praising this band over the years, and actually they came to Bangkok a couple of times, I think in the last decade or so, but unfortunately I didn't get to see them because of work commitments at the time. But yes, if you're not familiar, DEVOURMENT play what is called slam death metal. So if you don't know what that is, essentially it's an offshoot of death metal where there's not so much focus on blast beats and guitar solos, although there are blast beats, but it's more on sort of like groovy mid-pace and slow chugging riffs, in addition to kind of like hip-hop rhythms in terms of the vocals and the drum rhythms. You know, like what I mean, it's very sort of systematic rhythmic vocals, and usually very gurgled and moist and just guttural kind of vocals. But yeah, another way you could describe this is slam death metal bands are mostly inspired by Suffocation, particularly the song Liege of Inveracity. So you know how Suffocation plays very fast and technical death metal, but they have those slow breakdowns. That's basically what slam death metal focuses on, those sort of like groovy, heavy breakdowns. And yeah, so I do like slam death metal. I went to a slam death metal concert here about 5 years ago called Slam Domination, which had a lot of bands from Thailand, Indonesia, even Russia, and I really enjoyed that show. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, this is actually the first slam death metal album I own. So I will say this, under the microscope, when I'm listening to it at home, maybe I don't get into it as much as when I see it live. Like live it goes down really well because it's easy to move to and everything, but I still really enjoy this. So basically, yeah, this is slammy, riffy, brutal death metal. Slam death metal is usually very brutal, and like I said, while slam death metal doesn't focus on blast beats, this does have a lot of fast sections with blast beats, but also a lot of mid-paced and groovy riffs. So if you just like something groovy and catchy, maybe slam death metal is for you. And on this album, the drumming is incredibly fast on some songs, and the snare sound, it has that kind of pang sound, which is another characteristic of slam death metal. Not overly so on this album though, which is good, because sometimes the pang can be too much, that pang pang kind of sound. Not as bad as the trash can lid used by Lars Ulrich on Saint Anger, but it's got that distinct sound. And yeah, as with most slam death metal bands, on this album the vocals are extremely low and guttural and almost gurgling. So yes, I really do enjoy this. There's a lot of catchy sections, a lot of groovy moments, where you're nodding your head along and everything. So it is a good listen. That's sort of the praise out of the way. Talking about my criticisms of this music, and remember, I'm not being some picky bitch, this is just my personal taste, but the thing I find with a lot of slam death metal is that a lot of the songs have the same level of intensity, so it's hard to tell them apart. And like they might have a lot of blast beats and groovy sections, but yeah, they seem interchangeable a little bit. That's the only thing. So I wouldn't say there's a lot of standout tracks on this album, but there are 3 of them actually which really stand out the most to me in a sense, and they are tracks 4, 5, and 6 just by coincidence. So they are Tomb of Scabs, that's track 4, that's got some really good groovy sections. Also track 5, Autoerotic Asphyxiation, good title, which has got some good catchy and slow heavy riff sections, so those kind of breakdowny slam death metal riffs. And also track 6, entitled Anal Electrocution. So yes, this is what you expect from slam death metal. The lyrics are usually very gory and brutal. So yeah, coming to my criticisms, that's the only thing I find with a lot of these with slam death metal, there's not a lot of standout tracks, but there's a lot of good groovy moments, so I do find this good background music. In addition to that, I kind of have a problem with the vocals because they're a bit too guttural and gurgly. Like, I think you've probably heard me say many times, but in death metal, I like to hear the words clearly enunciated. Like, for example, like George Fisher from Cannibal Corpse, he's one of my favorite death metal vocalists because although he's singing incredibly fast and, you know, to technical music, he clearly enunciates the words and you can actually hear him saying the words. And even Chris Barnes, like on Tomb of the Mutilated, his vocals were highly extreme, right? And very guttural, but if you read along with the lyric sheet, you can still actually make out the fact that he's following, you know, he's actually saying the words. Whereas with a lot of slam death metal, and this album's no exception, the vocals just sound like guttural gurgling, you know, and like, I don't know, that gets on my nerves a bit, especially because I know this band puts a lot of effort into their lyrics, but it just sounds like non-stop gurgling, as I've mentioned with the Australian band Excruciate. Yeah, so yeah, the vocals I'm not a huge fan of, but then again, with this kind of music, often the vocals are considered like another instrument. But yeah, it is an enjoyable listen. And I'm not saying this in a patronizing way, but I think it's just good background music to me. Like, I've listened to it so many times, like maybe 15 to 20 times, and I do like it. Great background music, just not a lot of standout tracks. And another problem I have with slam death metal is, like, a lot of the lyrics are very misogynistic. You know, like, even though these bands are not slam death metal, but you know, bands like Leviticity and Gorgasm, every song is about chopping up women, and this band is sort of simmering that vein, like, following in that vein, and I think it's just a theme with this kind of music, and it's not to be taken seriously, but it just gets a bit tiresome when every single song is about that. But nevertheless, a good solid listen. Here's the cover, and the title's on the back here. Now, as I said, I got this as a sale version from my friend. It comes in this really crappy, I don't want to bend it, but you can see this is made of cardboard, slipcase, picture of the band, and cool CD. No lyrics included, but I don't really need them because, as I said, I can kind of do without these lyrics. But yeah, slam death metal, I do like it, but I find that it's better going down live. But nevertheless, this is a good solid listen. So do you guys like Devourment? Let me know some of your favorite albums. But in the meantime, this is Devourment with Butcher the Week. Okay, up next I have some more death metal, but a very different style, you could say. And I'm very glad to have picked this up because I'd heard the name of the band for years, but just bought them as a blind buy because I saw they were on sale. This is SARCASM with Esoteric Tales of the Universe. So SARCASM are a very old death metal band, you know, established in the 90s, I think, and from what I read on Metal Archives, they're still going today. But all I knew was the name. I knew the fact that they were a death metal band and they were from Sweden. That was about it. So I went into this as a complete blind buy. But have to say, I was really pleasantly surprised. I absolutely love this album. So to describe their style, they play fast, frantic, melodic, blackened death metal with that classic Swedish sound. So kind of in the vein of At the Gates and Ablaze My Sorrow, but in all honesty, I find this much more interesting than At the Gates. I think I've mentioned this before. I think I find that At the Gates is somewhat of an overrated band, a bit overrated, a bit overhyped, but nevertheless they are a great band, and obviously they were influential in forging this style of Swedish melodic death metal. But SARCASM, I think, if you like those types of bands, you will love this because I think it's even more interesting. So yeah, so what is melodic blackened death metal? You know, it's very fast and very frantic. It sounds like melodic death metal, but the vocals are raspy and blackened, you know, just like At the Gates and Ablaze My Sorrow. And on this, the drums are extremely fast and blasting, but they don't overpower the excellent guitar work. And while it's fast, it often slows down to catchy mid-pace melodies and slow breakdowns with melodic guitar solos. So this whole album is teeming with melody. You know, those Swedish hooks and melodies that you hear in all these bands, whether it's melodic death metal or blackened death metal, like, you know, even bands like Dissection. This has that, definitely. So you can tell right off the bat it's a Swedish band. And there are also a lot of melodic shredding guitar solos and some melancholic acoustic guitars too. And the songs are long and complex with a lot of time changes, but always hooky, catchy, and interesting. So this is very accessible. It's not like really extreme technical stuff where you have to focus. Like, it is complex, but it is still at the same time very catchy and very hooky, if that makes sense. And what's interesting as well is, just based on the title, Esoteric Tales of the Universe, you can tell that the lyrics are not you know, conventional themes of gore and death and morbidity. The lyrics are actually covering topics such as philosophy, surrealism, and the universe. So kind of like cosmic death metal, except I hate creating sub-genre names, so I just won't do that. But yeah, I would read some more titles out, but I don't have my glasses on, I don't have the magnifying glass, but they're very sort of long, complex, poetic titles talking about the cosmos and the universe. I should spend more time with the lyrics actually. But yeah, really good stuff. For me, some of the highlight songs are, oh, I've got some notes here so I can read some song titles. So track 1, Vortex of the Vultures, is a great intro, and also another favorite track of mine is track 3, which is entitled Flesh Was Carved Out from 7 Faces of God. Wow, what a title. So that has some really heavy, catchy doom sections and melancholic acoustic guitars, and also has some female vocals and excellent guitar melodies. So that's something I forgot to mention. While it's fast and frantic, they do have these like slow, doomy breakdowns with heavy riffs, which sound absolutely awesome. I also really like track 4, entitled Flawless Anonymies. That has some incredibly catchy melodies with the mid-paced riffs, and a bit like early Amorphous actually. So think of, what's it? Tales from a Thousand Lakes and Privilege of Evil. Yeah, the riffs have that, you know, sort of slow but melodic hooky sound, just like early Amorphous, which is cool. And track 5 as well, I don't have my glasses on, but I didn't write the name down. That's got an extremely catchy chorus with excellent guitar solos and melodies. And track 7 is doomy with some atmospheric keyboards. So there are other elements coming into play, like some acoustic guitars, some keyboards, some female vocals, but it all contributes to the melody. So just show you the cover here, which is very cool. It's a bit like a very colourful version of Burzum's Det som en gang var. And show you the booklet. So it's got pictures of the band and all of the lyrics and the lyrics are very elaborate and lengthy, so I have to spend more time with them. But I often say that, but I usually end up just listening to the music because that's the most important thing, isn't it? But yeah, they're original in terms of their lyrical content, that's for sure. And just show you the picture disc, very cool. Yep, so if you just like melodic, hooky, Swedish death metal, especially blackened death metal, like bands such as At the Gates and Ablaze My Sorrow. I think they sound more like Ablaze My Sorrow actually, which I think are better than At the Gates. You will absolutely love this. So that's SARCASM with Esoteric Tales of the Universe. Very glad to have picked this up, great band. Okay, now the next 2 albums I'm going to talk about, these are much more mainstream, but still fantastic albums. So in that sense, I don't need to say too much about them because a lot of people will know these, especially the first one that I'm going to show. So I never owned this album in original format, so I'm so glad to have finally picked it up. I got it on sale. This is, of course, Metallica with And Justice for All. So, no words needed, Metallica, the biggest metal band in the world, and they need no introduction whatsoever. Like most people, I like the first 4 albums the best. This is the 4th album. I don't like all of their albums, but overall I would say I'm a fan of the band, definitely. But this is without a doubt, like I said, the first 4 are my favorite. This is my favorite Metallica album of all time. Now, some people might say that's strange because they say, oh, the production's crap. You know, like you can't hear the bass properly. Yes, that's true. And the drums sound like drumsticks hitting matchboxes. Yes, but that creates this very particular idiosyncratic sound which is unique to this album. So it sort of has its own identity. And while there's no bass, they track the guitars many times, so it still has a kind of heavy crunch. And I like Lars's drumming, I don't care what people say, and you can definitely tell it's him, more on that later. But yeah, what is the main reason that I like this album? Simple answer in one word, riffs. This album has fucking sick riffs, like just brilliant, so heavy, so catchy, so hypnotic. There's so many different time changes in this, so some people have sort of labeled it as progressive heavy metal, which I kind of get because there's a lot of twists and turns in the songs, but it's always groovy and catchy. Yeah, you know it. I love the guitar solos as well. They just sound really, I don't know, almost evil actually in some songs, but absolutely fantastic. I like pretty much every song on this album. The only one I don't like as much, interestingly, is And Justice for All, the title track, only because it's a bit slow to get started and it's a bit stop-start. But having said that, there are some great riffs in it. But blackened, sick song, very depressing and dark as well. That's the thing, this is definitely the darkest Metallica album ever released. Not just because of the lyrical content, but because of the music. Eye of the Beholder is one of my favorite Metallica tracks. I know I saw in a recent interview Lars said he hated that song because it's got a swing time rhythm and they've got time changes, but that's why I love it. One was the song where they made it their first video clip, really epic, a lot of twists and turns in that. The Shortest Straw, fantastic song. Harvester of Sorrow, I really like that. It's got a heavy groove. And I love the bit, this is what I'm talking about with Lars's drumming. You know, the snare sort of imitates the lyrics sometimes. Like that line in Harvester of Sorrow when he goes, let the beatings begin. And it's like, da, 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 you know, to symbolize beating. It just sounds awesome. I really like, Frayed Ends of Sanity, great song. To Live Is To Die, the instrumental, it's epic. And Dyer's Eve, what a way to close the album. So yes, you all know this. I probably said too much already. Now, the only criticism I have of this album is, yes, while it has that idiosyncratic sound, which is unique, I really wish there was more bass on this. And I heard that the band deliberately turned down the bass out of respect for Cliff Burton, rest in peace, because of course he passed away before the making of this album. This was the first album with Jason Newsted. I do understand that, so I'm not disrespecting the band, and with all respect to Cliff, I just really think, what's the point in hiring a new bass player if you're not even going to include him on the album? But, you know, that's just my opinion. I'm sure Cliff would have agreed with that, like, guys, you've got to turn up the bass to hear the bass. But anyway, that's just my opinion. But yeah, absolutely fantastic album, cool artwork. I've had the t-shirt of this artwork many times over the years. Not at the moment, though. And, this is the OG booklet. Very cool picture of the band. Yep, so this is when Metallica were in their prime, if you ask me. But I don't want to sound like one of those condescending pricks who says, oh, everything they do now is shit, because it's not. They did go through a sort of sketchy patch, like bad patch with their music. I think everyone knows, like late 90s, mid 90s to early 2000s, but this is an absolutely killer album. I just love it. So it's riff-tastic. And I'm so happy to pick it up as my favorite Metallica album. So that's Metallica with And Justice for All. All right, now, the last album I'm going to talk about today, this is a band which is new to me. Which rock have I been hiding under? No idea. But this is Rush with The Spirit of Radio, the greatest hits. Okay, so I just want to say at the outset, shame on me. Shame on me that it took me so long to discover this absolutely brilliant band. So of course, Rush, everybody knows them probably. I think, as I said, I think I'm the last person to discover them. They are a Canadian band which are renowned for being a kind of prog rock, prog metal band. But I don't know why, I just never got around to discovering them until my mum recently said to me, have you checked out Rush before? And I said, no, I've always heard the name but never got around to them. And she said, check them out, you might like them. Because my mum, you know, back in the day, she liked a lot of, you know, all that like proto heavy metal stuff like Led Zeppelin, that was in her time and everything. So, and she likes a lot of music, she's very open-minded, likes a lot of metal, even some black metal. So I thought, okay, I'll take your recommendation. I listened to a greatest hits album on YouTube, and then a few songs really reeled me in, and I thought absolutely fantastic. So yes, they are a prog metal, prog rock band, but they've gone through different phases in their music. Like initially they started out as proto heavy metal, like in the vein of Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin. Then they went to more in a prog rock direction. Then they went in a kind of synth rock, synth pop direction, and then returned to prog metal. But the music is always really interesting, and for the most part I really like it. I remember Peter Criss described this band. Peter Criss from Kiss said they were good old Canadian boys who liked their whiskey and weed. That's all I knew about them really, but music is absolutely brilliant. Vocalist Geddy Lee has a really distinct voice, and I know a lot of people don't like his voice, but for me I find it really melodic and infectious, and it sticks in my head, so it's an earworm, be careful. And the whole band are just virtuosos, like Geddy Lee on vocals, bass and keyboards, Alex Lifeson on guitars, brilliant guitarist, and Neil Peart, rest in peace, on drums, who was an absolutely phenomenal drummer. Did not just play simple rock beats, but very complex, had a massive multi-piece kit. But yeah, I just love everything about this band. Really good stuff. Now, just forgive me because it's a bit dark here, but this has 16 songs, and I like 12 of the 16 songs a lot. Like, it starts off with Working Man, very much in the vein of Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple, because this was their proto heavy metal stage. And I remember I watched this documentary about them, and when they played that song on the radio, first of all, a lot of people said, when's the new Led Zeppelin album coming out? And they said, not a Led Zeppelin song, actually by this Canadian band, Rush. Fly By Night, absolutely fantastic song, like it's very classic radio, but I just love the vocals, the vocal melodies, they're really catchy. 2112, interestingly, that's the album that everyone praises. I'm not the biggest fan of their proggy era, like 2112 and Caress of Steel. I prefer their more, if I give you a time frame, I prefer their late 70s through to early 80s stuff. But those songs are still really good. Anyway, the song Closer to the Heart, that's one of the standout tracks. Again, very catchy with the vocal melodies. It really sticks in your head. Love that song. And The Trees, interesting song because it's a song about the relationship between trees, but why not? I mean, you know, a poem can be about something simple. Why can't a song be? So I really like that. The Spirit of Radio, that's a classic song as well. I've got a lot of friends who like that song. Free Will, absolutely love that track, like incredibly catchy with the riffs, and Geddy Lee's vocal melodies are absolutely phenomenal. Limelight is another fantastic track. That song cheers me up. That puts me in a good mood. It's just like so euphoric sounding. The vocal melodies are fantastic. So Limelight is great. Tom Sawyer, probably their most famous song. Very proggy with the synths, but I just love it. Red Barchetta, you know, which is a song about a car. Again, a simple topic, but Neil Peart was the lyricist and he wrote some very elaborate lyrics. But I just love that song, Red Barchetta, you know, especially the really rocky breakdown in it, like with Geddy's vocals, absolutely fantastic. Now, New World Man, we're coming to the first song that I don't really like much on the album. Like, this is a compilation, by the way, so greatest hits, if I haven't mentioned. But New World Man, not a terrible song, but I just find it not boring, but it just doesn't stand out to me much. But then, Subdivisions. Oh my God, so this is when the band was, you know, in the early 80s, I think, when they were going through their synth pop period. Subdivisions was the first track that reeled me in properly. I thought, what the hell is this? Absolutely brilliant track. Like, just so haunting and melancholic and atmospheric with the synthesizers, and the lyrical content is really interesting, talking about, you know, people who are social outcasts and lonely in a popular world. It's just really interesting. I love everything about that song. So Subdivisions could be my favorite song on this compilation, I would say. Then the next two songs, one of which is The Big Money. I don't find those all that interesting, but they're still all right. And then, yeah, the next three, but the last track, Time Stands Still, absolutely love that. Especially, it sounds to me like a late 80s Fleetwood Mac, sort of like in the vein of Tango in the Night, but Geddy Lee's vocals and the melodies are absolutely fantastic. It's so catchy. So absolutely love this album. 12 out of the 16 songs. But just those other 4 songs, I don't hate them or I don't even dislike them. They just don't stand out as much to me. But 12 out of 16 is fantastic. And with the 12, I really like them. So probably my favorite songs, absolute favorite songs on this compilation would be Fly By Night, Closer to the Heart, Free Will, Limelight, and Subdivisions. They're my absolute favorites, but all the others are great as well. Just show you the cover here with that famous logo with the pentagram. And for that reason, the band was accused of being satanic, absolutely ridiculous. The star's going the wrong way, for starters. Okay, and just show you the booklet. So it's a compilation, so they have credits of all the albums. So starting from the self-titled one, Proto Heavy Metal. Yep, all of the albums details, picture of the band there, very cool. I think this was in their heyday, like the 70s, but they were absolutely fantastic right until the end. And the only reason they split up was after, very sadly, tragically, Neil Peart passed away. But they had a 40+ year career, and I'm only just getting started with this band, so can't wait to buy some more albums. Based on the songs that I really like, I think the albums that I would like to get would be Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures to start with, as well as Signals. Yeah, so like late 70s, early 80s. But what an absolutely fantastic band. I just love Rush, from what I've heard thus far anyway. So what do you guys think of Rush? Like I said, I'm probably the last person in the world to discover them, but better than late than never, and I'm so glad that I did. So that's Rush with The Spirit of Radio, the greatest hits. All right, guys, so I've just done enough rambling on for today. It was a pretty eclectic update, but I hope you enjoyed it. That's all I have to say. I'm coming back in the next video with another contest entry, and then I'll be on hiatus for a couple of weeks, but as usual, there's still plenty to talk about. So I hope you keep watching. So let's get some discussion going. Tell me what you think of these albums and these bands. Do you have any recommendations or comments? Let me know. It would be great to hear from you. And I'll be back with my next video next week. So in the meantime, take care, and I'll talk to you soon. See you then. Bye.